Chinese New Year, January 22nd, Year of the Rabbit. Art with Miss A. Happy New Year. San Francisco is such a diverse place. We have some of the best Chinese New Year celebrations, like the flower market, the parades. I suggest you check it out and maybe attend one. Today we will be celebrating Chinese New Year by learning how to draw a rabbit. These beautiful creatures are misunderstood a lot of times. Not only are they wonderful pets, but they need a partner. They are social animals and do not like to live alone. They also can hear and see very, very well. And it is a misconception that carrots are what they love to eat. They generally like to eat grasses and hay for their digestion. Today we will be using very simple supplies, pencil, paper, and eraser, but you will learn how to draw and sketch your rabbit and using your pencil to give texture for the fur and shading to give value that will make your rabbit look as realistic as possible. You will also be learning about value, shading, lighting, texture, shapes, all the things that you've learned before we will be using to create these beautiful sketches of rabbits. The Chinese people have assigned an animal to each year, and there are 12 different animals. This year is Year of the Rabbit. People born under the rabbit sign are vigilant, witty, quick-minded, and ingenious. Each sign has its own unique qualities. Check out when you were born and what qualities your animal has. See if they match up with you. All right, let's get started with our rabbit drawing. You are going to need a piece of paper, a pencil, and an eraser. Very simple today. We're going to be using this picture as a reference photo for our drawing. So right now I'm just showing you the shapes that we're going to draw to start to create our rabbit. Here's a breakdown. Basically, it is 4 ovals and 2 curved lines to create the shape of our rabbit. All right, let's get started. Get your paper going portrait up and down. We're going to be using sketch lines today, very light lines. We're going to sketch out the face length, which is a vertical oval, and you're going to use very light lines. You can see my lines are very light. And then you are going to do another oval going horizontally for the front muzzle of the rabbit. And then you are going to use ovals, elongated ovals, on either side to create the ear shape of your rabbit. And you're going to make light lines, and you're checking with the reference photo, and you are trying to create 4 ovals that, once all connected, will create your rabbit. All right, now I'm going in and I'm fine-tuning my ovals, looking at the reference photo of the ears of the rabbit, and I'm starting to darken in the shapes of what I see. Don't look at the whole entire rabbit. Look at each part of the rabbit as an individual shape. I'm drawing the contour line, which is the outline of the rabbit, and I'm looking at the reference photo while I am sketching in these lines. You are going to make ovals for the eyes on either side of the rabbit. And then I'm working my way down, looking at the reference photo, using the shapes that I drew as a reference and a guide. But I'm constantly looking at the photo to my left to look at what I see. Now I'm going to start placing in the nose shape, which is basically a heart. I'm also bringing down that line around down below the nose and creating the cheek lines and the chin line. Taking into account that you are going to be altering some of these lines, You kind of want to use sketch lines, and looking back and forth at the reference photo is going to be your guide. Don't think you see what you see, actually see what you see. And take your time working your way around the rabbit's face and looking at the photo and making adjustments as you go. Once you start to see the actual rabbit starting to form itself, you can use your eraser to erase any of those lines that you do not need. Again, this is just a pencil drawing, and we are just sketching the actual shape of the rabbit. You can go back in and give more details for the eyes and work yourself around making adjustments as you go. I'm liking now the shape that is developing, and I see the rabbit. I'm going back in with my eraser and I'm cleaning up any of those sketch lines that I do not need. Always hold your hand closely to where you're erasing and make small little movements. Otherwise the paper will crunch up on you. So hand down and erase around, cleaning up those lines. We're not going to be using a Sharpie or a black pen to outline this. This is going to be just pencil, because we're also going to learn about value and shading. So here I'm now picking back up my pencil and bringing in those details a little bit darker, because now I have a little bit more of an idea exactly what I want. So you can change those sketch lines to a little bit darker so you can see them. Don't forget to add the 2 lines on either side of the face for the body, making the contour line of the shape of the body of the rabbit. I'm also adding in some of the lines that will tell me the different colors of the fur, like the white specifically. I'm also going in and darkening the pupil of the eye, and I'm doing that with the hardest pressure of my pencil because I'm trying to get a black value, and that will mean that you are pushing as hard as you can. Make sure you don't push too hard that you rip the paper. You don't want to do that. So this is a process of drawing, erasing, drawing, erasing, and cleaning it up as you go. Right now, you are only putting the details in that you are going to need for later when we use our pencils to add fur, and also lastly use the shading. So these are just lines that are giving the details of the rabbit. Once you are done with the drawing of the rabbit, we're going to add the fur. I want you to look at this photo of the rabbit and see the arrows. The arrows are how the fur should go in what direction. Fur is supposed to follow the line of the animal. And when you're making your fur lines, you want to make sure that you're making them in the same direction that the fur would be laying down on the rabbit. Notice the fur on the ears goes away from the ears, up the nose goes up towards the forehead, and then on the body it goes down, and on the cheeks it goes down to the sides. So you want, when you're placing your little lines, to create that same path of where the fur lays down. It'll look more realistic that way. And what I'm doing is using just simple little lines to look like texture of the fur. And I'm working my way around the rabbit, adding little lines all over to create the look and texture of fur. On the body of the rabbit, you're going to make larger lines because the fur is longer on the body. Here's a close-up of all of my line work for the fur. You can see that some of the lines I didn't use a lot of pressure to make them lighter, and some of the lines I used a lot of pressure to make it darker. This gives the detail of the fur to be a little bit darker in places and a little bit lighter because we're not using color. The last step is shading, and this is learning value. We've talked a little bit about value over the course of the last couple of years, but a value scale can go white to black. And using your pencil in different pressures gives you different values of graphite, which is basically lead. Here's a little exercise that I love to do where I fold a piece of paper and I try to get 4 different values of gray, one being white, so I don't draw anything on the first square, and then the 3 other ones, I'm going to build up the value. I start by shading number 2, 3, and 4 with the very lightest pressure of graphite. And I do all 3 because what we're going to do is layer number 3 and 4 with another coating until we get the darkest graphite. You should be able to have 4 different values of shading. One would be the white paper, and the last one would be you pressing as hard as you could, and then the other 2 are light and then a little bit darker. So this is just me doing a warm-up, and I usually like to do this just to see how it feels, the pressure of the pencil, and also different leads give you different values. A number 2 pencil isn't really made for shading. It's more made for doing writing exercises, whereas softer lead would give you a darker value. So we're going to use a regular pencil today, which is absolutely fine. But as you can see, I am getting white, light gray, a little bit darker gray, and then the darkest from my pencil. So now using that value idea of different values of gray, I want you to try to use your pencil and your finger to give some shading to your rabbit. Underneath your chin would be darker, maybe in the middle of the forehead would be a little darker, maybe in the ear to the right there would be a shadow. And I want you to look at the reference photo, and where you see the darker fur or a shadow, I want you to lightly shade on top of the rabbit and use your finger as a blending tool. And you can always take your pencil and lightly shade a little bit more graphite onto the paper, then put your pencil down and use your finger to blend it in. And you will see that the rabbit will become, instead of 2-dimensional, it'll start to look 3-dimensional as you create those different values of shading. Now here's looking at the light source. The light is coming from the left, creating a shadow underneath the rabbit's chin. You're going to lightly dust your piece of paper by using the side of your pencil and lightly shadowing or shading a little bit of graphite and then using your finger to blend it out. You're creating shadows so that your 2-dimensional rabbit looks 3-dimensional. You'll notice around the nose of the rabbit, the fur is a little bit darker, so I'm putting a little graphite there. I'm also putting it on the right side and then using my finger to blend. You don't want to do it so hard that you cannot see the texture of the fur that you created. It's more using the side of your pencil and lightly shading the side with the side of the pencil to get a little bit of a shadow. Moving to the ear, there would be a shadow of the ear inside. So I'm creating a little bit of a shadow right on the edge and using my finger, using a little bit of graphite, then blending a little graphite and blending. And creating a shadow on the ear will make it look less flat and make it look three-dimensional. Don't forget to sign your artwork in the lower left or right-hand corner and write your full name on the back of your paper. I cannot wait to see these. Just adding some final details, putting in a little bit more of the darker fur lines, just giving it one glance over before I say that I am done. Yay! I cannot wait to see your rabbit. Remember, if you can dream it, you can make it, and you can change your world. Art with Miss A. Cannot wait to see your rabbits. What a wonderful year 2023 is going to be, Year of the Rabbit. And I will see you next week. Bye for now.